Hi, and welcome back to the Grab and Go program for teens at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System. I'm Erica, the Teen Service Librarian at Delmont, and today I'm going to teach you how to make Mother's Day pop-up cards. As a reminder, supplies are limited. It is first come, first serve. Grab and Go bag is going to include a glue stick and some cardstock, but at home you're going to need scissors, pictures that you want to use, either printouts or drawings that you've done, and some kind of coloring utensil. The coloring utensils are optional, but I like adding a little pop of color to my piece. So the first thing you're going to do is fold your paper in half. Try to make it as even as possible. You will be trimming the edges towards the end, but it is good to start with an even base. Then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut a little pocket on the crease that you've created. This is going to give you your first pop-up effect. So as you can see, you pop it into the inside of the card and you fold it all over. It creates a bit of negative space on the outside, and that's because the little tab you've created now makes that pop-up effect on the inside of the card. Now that's the first pop-up technique, and you're going to see how that translates later on in the video. I'm going to show you another technique for pop-up cards now, just to give you a better idea of the different types of cards you can make. So in this piece, I am cutting out a picture of my cat because I'm going to use him as my image in my pop-up card. So cut out whatever picture you're going to use and then set it aside with your cardstock. At this point, you're going to trace the outline of your image. You want to make your cardstock have two bases. You want it to have a front piece and a back piece. A front piece that's going to stick to the image and a back piece that's going to stick to the back of the card. You're also going to want a longer center piece, and I'll show you that in a moment. So first, what I like to do is I trace over it. I fold the paper over. I will then glue the first part of the image down on the front piece inside of that like vague outline I made, and then I hold those two pieces together, two pieces of paper together, and I cut the image out of it. This way it just kind of lines up nice and neat. It's flush, and it's less cutting I have to do. Instead of cutting two pieces of paper individually, I just cut them at the same time. After that, I will measure out the size of the picture, the length of it, and cut a piece of cardstock out to match that. So you'll see that in just a moment. This is me showing you the two pieces of cardstock. So when you do this, you will be able to make something that is the length that you need it to be in your card to create that pop-up effect. So here it is, I'm drawing it, I'm cutting it a little over the crease line that I made from that paper, just because you're going to fold part of it. And then I round the edges off. I do this so that none of the edges appear behind the image. It makes it look like it's popping up and not that it's being held on something. You're then going to fold the front and back. These little tabs are what you're going to attach to these cardstock bases you just made. So you will take your glue and glue it on. I also forgot to make a tail at one point, so this is me adding the tail. As you can see, I line those two pieces up and I can see a lot of the base behind that longer piece, so I'm cutting it down so you can't see it. And then I'm going to trim it again because that back piece is too long and it would create a really weird, the front piece wouldn't be able to stand up. So I cut it down to size and I glue it to the back tab. Now normally you would decorate these. I'll show you later what they look like decorated, but this is just so you understand how to construct it. So I glue all the pieces together. And then you're going to have to let it dry. That's super important. You'll see what happens if you try to move it around while it's still wet. It's going to fall apart. But you want to make sure that it is nice and dry before you go on to the next step of putting it in your card. As you can see, everything's pretty even here, but you need to make one more base, and that's going to be for the feet. You don't need a lot of cardstock. I'm just using scraps, as you can see. You're going to fold your piece of cardstock so that you have a little bit behind your base and a little bit on the what's going to be on like the floor of the card. And then you're just going to glue, I evened it out here, but you are going to glue the base to this little piece of paper. And this is going to create a standy effect, like a little stand. Now let this dry. If you don't let it dry, it will not stand up, it will come apart. Now on this part, I am going to cut out some of that space between the feet. That's just a personal preference of mine. And I'm going to fold it over instead of risking cutting more of it. And then I'm going to put glue on the bottom part of the standee to stand it up in the card. You're going to want to attach that backmost part to the part of the card that you lift up. That creates a kind of an anchor that allows you to make your image pop up. Before you glue the bottommost part down, test out how it folds, as I'm doing here. This way you can just keep an eye on where you need to put the piece so it doesn't fall apart. As you see, I did this while it was still wet, so nothing stuck when I was testing it, but that's also good because if it had dried and the pieces didn't work together right, it would have fallen apart. So after you make sure everything is in the space it needs to be, you will fold it down, put something like a book on top of it, and let it dry. And then after it dries, it'll stand up the way it was in the video. Now in this part, I'm showing you how to do some other little decorations for your 3D pop-up cards. The easiest way to do 3D effects in cards without doing a ton of construction the way we did before is just by layering. So in this part of the video here, I'm showing you how I am creating layers to make a gift pop-up piece. This is going to go on that tab that we created before. So just if you're going to do this, make sure that you work each piece and you layer them on top of each other. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. In creating these different little layers, it's going to give it a more three-dimensional effect. The next step is to put everything down. You're going to glue down any of the decorations you made, any of the 3D effects you made. So I, off-screen, made some cat-themed decorations, like a water bowl with fish in it. I made some hearts that I wanted to put up, and I made comic book looking signs to put up too. I also figured out some cute cat puns, which you'll see soon, and I decorated my pop-up card with those elements. You're going to be able to decorate your pop-up card however you want. Now on this part here, I'm trimming the top and the bottom. Honestly, I think if you fold it over and then trim them at the same time, it'll probably be easier, plus more even. Hindsight is 20/20. But you're going to trim it to fit it inside of the next part of your cardstock. You don't want that white piece of paper with the negative space to be showing. You want to glue it down inside of a different piece of cardstock so that it looks like a nice, neat card, as you can see here. You make sure that everything lines up the way you want it to. You're going to glue it down. Make sure not to put glue in that area of the negative space. It just winds up making the card stick to itself, like the outside of the card, and then it's going to cause tearing, which won't look cute at all. So you're going to glue everything down, and then you're going to add the rest of your elements that you're going to put on the outside of your card. Some of these elements that I've added are not in the video. These are flowers that I discovered how to make on YouTube. They're readily available on YouTube to look up, and you can decorate your card however you want to using elements that you create and design. After you've put everything down that you wanted to put down, all of your interior and exterior decorations, please give your project time to dry. The glue is very wet and it takes a little while. I would say give it about 20 minutes before you try to put it in an envelope or hand it out. Also, make sure that your pieces are securely on. I had created this piece here and it fell off, so I had to redo it, and then you will see in just a moment that the top of it will fall off, and I had to put it back together. So be patient with yourself, be patient with your project, and give it time to dry. Working on it when it's still wet and trying to put everything together while it's still wet is just going to result in a project that falls apart. But once it's all dry and complete, you are going to have a really cool pop-up card. You can use this design to make any kind of card, from Mother's Day to Father's Day to friends, the birthdays. And there you go. There is the Mother's Day pop-up card. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you at the next Grab and Go program. All right, bye.